I used to think betrayal would feel like a sudden explosion, loud, messy, undeniable. Turns out, it's quiet. So quiet you can hear your own heartbeat in your ears while the world around you blurs into a surreal dream you never signed up for. That night started like any other. I came home late from the office, same job, same grind, same exhaustion gnawing at my bones. I still had my tie half loose, my jacket thrown over one shoulder, thinking maybe, just maybe, tonight would be different. Maybe she'd be in the kitchen, that silly little apron she never needed tied around her waist, humming that off-key song she loved. Instead, I stepped into a damn battlefield. Her voice hit me first, sharp, playful, way too intimate for someone talking on the phone. I paused in the entryway, the words freezing me in place like a sucker punch to the gut. "When are you going to get me pregnant?" she giggled, her voice dripping with something I hadn't heard directed at me in years. The words carved into my skull, ugly and unforgettable. I stood there, briefcase slipping from my hand, hitting the hardwood floor with a dull thud I barely registered. She didn't notice, too wrapped up in her little fantasy. Then she turned. Her face went pale, the blood draining so fast it was like watching someone die standing up. Her mouth opened slightly, that beautiful lying mouth, but no sound came out for a second. Just the two of us frozen there in our own private horror show. She swallowed hard, composing herself with a speed that made me realize this wasn't her first rodeo. "You heard that?" she asked, voice brittle. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The truth hung in the air, heavier than anything either of us could cut through. She straightened her back, lifted her chin, that same stubborn posture she used when she was cornered. And then she said the line that sealed her fate and mine. "Don't you dare lay a finger on him. He's your boss, remember?" Like she was protecting him. Like I was the threat here. Like I hadn't just walked in on the slow demolition of my whole damn life. I should have yelled. I should have thrown something. I should have made a scene worthy of all the broken things lying around inside me. But I didn't. I just stared at her, feeling everything and nothing all at once. An hour later, I sat in my truck, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, trying to stop my brain from short-circuiting. That's when the call came. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Wish to hell I hadn't. "Is this Mr. Weston?" a flat, professional voice asked. "Yeah," I said, my voice cracking like an old hinge. "This is Officer Mathis with the City Police Department. There's been a report concerning your welfare. We need you to come in voluntarily, or we'll have to send an officer to your location." "My welfare?" I repeated dumbly. "Yes, sir. We have concerns regarding your mental and physical state. There's also been an incident reported at your place of employment." It didn't take a genius to piece it together. She hadn't just stabbed me in the heart. She'd twisted the blade and called in backup. My boss, her lover, pulling strings, getting the cops involved, setting me up to look unstable. A liability. I glanced at my rearview mirror. Sure enough, a cruiser idled 2 blocks down, lights off but engine humming. They were waiting for me to make one wrong move. I hung up without another word, chest burning with a rage I didn't dare show yet. If they wanted to show, they'd have to wait. I'd give them something they wouldn't soon forget, but it wouldn't be today. The hospital was sterile, cold. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, slicing my headache into jagged little pieces. They asked me stupid questions. They poked and prodded like I was some broken machine they were trying to reboot. "Do you feel like hurting yourself, Mr. Weston? Do you feel like hurting anyone else?" If they knew the storm building behind my steady gaze, maybe they would have locked the door a little tighter. But I smiled, played nice, said the right things. They couldn't see the chessboard already building in my mind, every piece moving, every plan taking shape, while they checked my blood pressure and handed me a juice box like I was 5 years old. No one expected what happened next. Especially her. Especially him. Especially me. Because that night, as I lay on that stiff hospital bed staring at the water-stained ceiling, something inside me snapped clean in two, but not in the way they hoped. I wasn't broken. I was awake, and hell was coming for them both. Hospitals smell like bleach and despair. I lay there under thin blankets that didn't do a damn thing against the cold, feeling every second crawl by like molasses. Around me, nurses whispered in clipped tones. Doctors clicked their pens and shook their heads like I was a puzzle missing half the pieces. They didn't know I was already piecing together a masterpiece. I didn't call anyone. No wife. No friends. No family. Let them wonder. Let them stew in the lies they cooked up. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me beg, or him the thrill of watching me snap. Instead, I asked for a notebook and a pen. The nurse blinked at me like I was asking for a shotgun. You want to write something? Yeah, I said, offering my most charming, broken smile. I'm feeling reflective. She brought them, bless her soul. She even smiled sympathetically the way people smile at stray dogs. Perfect. I spent the next 3 hours filling page after page, sketching out every step of what would come next. Not wild revenge fantasies, no, those were for amateurs. I wrote down facts, dates, names, weaknesses, patterns. I knew their schedules better than they did. I knew where my boss/wife's lover liked to grab his coffee every morning, the way he leaned against the counter like he owned the place, flashing that greasy smile at the barista. I knew how she spent her afternoons, sipping overpriced wine with her yoga friends, most of whom had husbands she'd probably already memorized the bedrooms of. I knew where they were weakest, their pride. They thought they were untouchable. They thought I was finished. Good. Let them. The hospital shrink finally shuffled in around 9. Balding, mid-50s, fake smile. He pulled up a chair like he was settling in for a cozy chat by a fireplace. Mr. Weston, he said in a syrupy voice. I understand you've been under a lot of stress lately. We want to make sure you're safe before discharging you. I nodded solemnly. I appreciate that. He smiled wider, the kind of smile you give a man right before you lower the hammer. Have you been having thoughts of harming yourself or others? No, sir, I said, steady as a surgeon's hand. I'm just tired. A lot happened today. I want to move forward. Heal. Grow. I fed him every buzzword he wanted to hear. Therapy words. Human resources words. Soft words that made men like him relax their grip. Within an hour, I was free. Signed the paperwork with a hand so steady it would have made a sniper jealous. I walked out of that hospital into the cool night air, feeling like a man reborn. The old me, the naive idiot who thought love could survive loyalty to someone who didn't deserve it, died in that sterile room. What walked out was something else. Not angry. Not broken. Just focused. I drove past our house, no, her house now. Lights on in the living room. I could see 2 silhouettes moving around, laughing about God knows what. Maybe they were celebrating my little vacation at the loony bin. Maybe they were picking out baby names. Didn't matter. I didn't slow down. Didn't honk. Didn't smash through the front window like some movie villain. They weren't worth that kind of fire. They were going to burn themselves just fine without me lifting a finger. I had a better idea. I checked into a cheap motel on the other side of town. Peeling wallpaper. Buzzing neon sign outside. Smelled like desperation and stale cigarettes. It was perfect. I pulled out my phone, the old backup one she didn't know about, and started sending out messages. Old college buddies who owed me favors. Lawyers I knew from my freelance side gigs. A private investigator I'd once bailed out of a jam. I wasn't alone. And soon, neither would they be. By morning, my resignation letter would be on my boss's desk. Beautifully worded. Respectful. Ironclad. By noon, the labor board would have anonymous complaints filed against him for workplace misconduct, with evidence that would make his blood run colder than the champagne he liked to pop at every board meeting. By nightfall, my wife would find her accounts frozen, her little shopping sprees cut off at the knees. Because when I built something, I built it to last. And when I destroyed something, I made damn sure there was nothing left to rebuild. Tomorrow would be the first domino. And after that? Well, let's just say nobody was getting pregnant. Not in the mess I was about to unleash. Sunrise cut through the grime on the motel window like a blade. I sat on the edge of the lumpy mattress, sipping burnt coffee from a paper cup, watching the world start its oblivious day. Same people, same roads, same empty dreams. Except mine were done being empty. I pulled my laptop from the duffel bag, the same battered thing I'd used for years, and logged into a few accounts she didn't know existed. Quiet accounts. Smart investments. Things I set up back when I still believed we were building something real, just in case life threw a curveball. Well, life didn't throw a curveball. It tossed a grenade. In less than 20 minutes, I transferred every last dollar from our joint accounts into the names of trusts she couldn't touch. Legally, cleanly. She could file every complaint she wanted. Good luck arguing your case when your name isn't even on the paperwork anymore. You see, while she was busy chasing my boss like some lovesick teenager, I was quietly putting a financial firewall around everything I cared about. She thought being clever was about hiding texts and giggling behind closed doors. Real cleverness? It's playing a long game they never even knew they were a pawn in. Next came my resignation letter. Drafted, edited, and polished to a blinding shine. I didn't just resign. No, that would be too easy. I resigned with gratitude. I thanked my boss for the opportunities he had given me. I highlighted all the lessons I'd learned under his leadership. I left it dripping with the kind of professionalism that HR departments dream of. Because if you're going to stick a knife in someone, better make sure it's so clean they thank you for the surgery. At 7:59 a.m. sharp, my email hit the server. At 8:03 a.m., his phone would start ringing. At 8:10 a.m., the first anonymous complaint would hit the regional office, alleging impropriety between a senior executive and a subordinate spouse, backed by timestamped screenshots I'd collected weeks ago. Back when something deep in my gut started whispering that things weren't right. Paranoia, she called it. Preparation, I call it now. And her? Well, she was about to learn just how cold a man can get when he's been set on fire. I packed up my things, checked out of the motel, and headed downtown. First stop, the law office of Carson and DeWitt. I knew them from back when my old college roommate went through his divorce, the one where his wife thought she could take him for everything he had until these guys buried her in paperwork so fast she couldn't see daylight. They weren't cheap, but I wasn't broke. And I wasn't playing for pennies. Mr. Weston, good to see you, Carson said, shaking my hand firmly. We reviewed the documents you sent last night. Strong case. Very strong. How fast can you move? I asked, my voice low and measured. Already moving, Carson said with a smile. Your wife should receive a formal notice by the end of the week. We're also drafting an injunction regarding the use of marital funds pending the divorce proceedings. She won't be able to spend a dime without court approval. I nodded once. No emotion. No second-guessing. And the employment situation? I pressed. Carson leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. With the materials you provided, your former employer is looking at serious liability. We predict a quick settlement offer to avoid media exposure. You'll walk away not just with severance, but damages as well. Good, I said. It was only noon by the time I left their office, the sun high and blinding, the streets buzzing with people who had no idea how fast a life could crumble, or how fast one could be rebuilt. I had lunch at a diner I used to frequent when life was simpler: greasy fries, cheap burgers, strong coffee. It tasted like freedom. While I ate, I checked my phone. New email from HR. New voicemail from my now ex-boss. Both ignored. They didn't deserve my attention. They deserved to stew in their own panic, wondering just how deep the knife had gone. By the time sunset rolled around, the pieces were all in motion. My accounts were secured. My resignation had detonated quietly inside their polished corporate halls. The legal paperwork was underway, swift and merciless. I didn't call her. Didn't text her. Didn't even warn her. I wanted her to feel the ground give out beneath her feet without ever seeing it coming. Because betrayal is a slow poison when you're the one drinking it. But when you hand it back, it becomes a reckoning. And I was just getting started. The next morning started with a notification. Just a simple ping from the banking app. Account alert. Withdrawal request denied. It wasn't my account. It was hers. I sat back in the stiff motel chair, coffee cooling beside me, and stared at the screen with a grim satisfaction blooming in my chest. Oh, honey, you really thought you could live off my work and my humiliation? Think again. Mid-morning brought the second gift. A furious text message from her. Lynn, why can't I use NY money? Call me now. This is illegal. I smiled to myself. Amazing how fast our money became my money when her little games hit a wall she couldn't climb over. I didn't respond. Let her scream into the void. She wasn't the only one losing control. Because by noon, the company was burning. Reports came flooding out: complaints, HR meetings, whispers. You see, workplace gossip spreads faster than wildfires in dry grass, especially when you drop a match as skillfully as I had. Suddenly, my boss wasn't just a star executive. He was a liability. Turns out corporate boardrooms don't like executives tangled up in sexual harassment complaints, especially not when the affair is with a subordinate spouse, with digital proof and dates that conveniently overlap company events. The best part? I never said a single word publicly. Not once. Anonymous complaints. Carefully timed leaks. Cold precision. Like a surgeon, cutting just deep enough to bleed them dry without killing them too fast. By 2 p.m., another text arrived, this time from him. Greg, we need to talk. Man to man. I laughed out loud. Man to man. The guy who was screwing my wife behind my back now wanted to talk it out like gentlemen? No, Greg. You made your choices. Now you get to choke on them. By the time night fell, they must have realized the scope of the trap. Because that's when the real panic started. I was parked in the back corner of a shopping center lot, phone buzzing nonstop beside me, watching a live stream from an anonymous corporate whistleblower account. There he was, Greg, squirming his way through a PR disaster at the office. Stammering his denials, sweating under the cheap lights, trying to hold together the tatters of his fake reputation while HR sharks circled for the kill. All because he couldn't keep his hands or his promises to himself. And her? She was radio silent now. No more texts. No more calls. Because while Greg's career was burning, I had another move queued up, a private investigator's final report landing squarely on her lap. Every lie. Every late-night yoga class she never attended. Every hotel receipt. Every quiet little secret she thought she could bury under her pretty smiles. It was all there, black and white. No denials. No second chances. And waiting right underneath the neatly bound report? Divorce papers. Full custody filings. Asset freeze orders. All legal. All clean. All signed. Ready for the judge's stamp. I pictured her opening that package. I pictured the blood draining from her face, the same way it had that night I caught her whispering into the phone about getting pregnant with another man's child. Poetic. By midnight, I finally turned off my phone, set it face down, and lay back against the cracked headboard of the motel bed. The courthouse smelled like old paper, bad coffee, and broken promises. I sat at the polished wood table, my lawyer Carson to my right, documents stacked neatly in front of him. Across the room, she sat with her attorney, some slick, overpriced pit bull from one of those celebrity firms. She looked smaller now. Not physically, no, she still had the same shiny hair, the same carefully curated wardrobe. But the way she curled in on herself, the way her eyes kept flickering to the exits, made it clear. She knew. She knew the ground was crumbling beneath her Louboutin heels. Greg wasn't here. Of course not. He was too busy fighting for his own career, trying to keep his name from becoming a punchline in HR training videos across the country. No knight in shining armor. No boss to hide behind. Just her, me, and the reckoning. The judge entered, and everyone rose, a sea of expensive suits and empty souls. Be seated, the judge said, his voice rough with years of listening to lies for a living. Carson stood smoothly. Your Honor, we have filed for divorce on grounds of adultery and emotional distress, supported by documented evidence. We also request an immediate injunction preventing the dissipation of marital assets and request full temporary custody of the minor child. There was no child, but Carson liked to say it. It rattled opposing counsel. Every little edge mattered. Her lawyer sprang up, already spitting protests. Your Honor, this is a gross exaggeration. My client. The judge held up a hand. Let's see the evidence, he said, sounding already tired. Carson slid a neatly tabbed folder across the table. Receipts. Hotel records. Text transcripts. Pictures. Videos. My wife's betrayal, laid bare in brutal, clinical detail. The judge's face didn't change much, probably seen worse. But when he got to the part where she joked about trading up to a richer husband once the baby came, even he arched an eyebrow. Her lawyer sputtered. She shrank lower in her seat. I didn't gloat. Didn't smile. Didn't even blink. I just sat there like a rock while the walls closed in around her. By the time lunch rolled around, the judge called both lawyers to chambers. Left alone, she dared to look at me. Tears welled in her eyes, real ones maybe, but they didn't move me. Not anymore. Why are you doing this? She whispered, voice cracking. I leaned forward just slightly, my voice low enough only she could hear. You already did this, I said. Simple. Clean. True. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, wanted to plead, but no words came out. There were no words left between us. Just wreckage. And I wasn't the one standing in the middle of it. When they came back from chambers, Carson was smirking slightly. Your Honor has reviewed the evidence, he said, voice professional but with an edge of finality. Given the overwhelming nature of the proof, we request immediate execution of the temporary orders as submitted. The judge didn't hesitate. Temporary sole possession of the house and all shared vehicles awarded to Mr. Weston. Temporary financial support suspended pending full review. Plaintiff is permitted supervised visitation arrangements if applicable. He banged his gavel once, sharp and merciless. Done. Just like that. Everything she thought she could steal gone. No money. No car. No luxury. No next chapter with her big-shot boyfriend. Not that he was going to survive the PR bloodbath anyway. Only ashes. And the worst part for her? She couldn't even hate me for it, because I hadn't yelled, hadn't swung a fist, hadn't thrown a tantrum. I played by the book. I just played better. Walking out of that courthouse felt different than I expected. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't even relief. It was clarity. A clean slate. The man who'd walked into that marriage, hopeful, naive, ready to give everything, was gone. The man walking out? He knew better now. He built carefully. He trusted sparingly. And he never, ever let the snakes get close enough to bite again. 2 days after the courtroom massacre, she showed up. No call. No warning. Just the sound of gravel crunching in the driveway of the house, my house now, as her battered sedan rolled to a stop. I watched her from the front window, coffee mug in hand, calm as a man watching a storm he already boarded the windows for. She stepped out wearing a designer jacket 2 sizes too thin, clutching a handbag like it was a shield. She looked desperate, tired. Good. I didn't move. Let her make the first move. She approached the door cautiously, the way you approach a dog you kick too many times and aren't sure won't bite back. A knock. Soft. Timid. I opened it just enough to see her, not to invite her in. "I need to talk to you," she said, voice trembling like a violin string about to snap. "No," I said, steady. "You need me to listen." "That's not the same thing." She flinched. "Good. Please," she whispered. "I made a mistake. Greg, it wasn't what you think." That pulled a bitter laugh from me. Not what I think. So she wasn't planning a whole new life behind my back? She wasn't plotting a pregnancy with another man? She wasn't lying with every breath she took? "You're right," I said after a long moment. "It's worse than what I thought." She looked like she was about to cry. Good. Let her feel just an ounce of what she'd poured into me without a second thought. She shifted tactics, switching from pity to pleading. "We can fix this," she said quickly. "We can go to counseling. Work through it. We have history, memories." I cut her off with a small shake of my head. "History doesn't equal loyalty," I said. "And memories don't erase betrayal." Her face crumpled, the mask slipping, the panic setting in full force now. "Please," she said again, more desperate. "I'll sign whatever you want. I'll agree to the divorce. I need some help. Money to get started. I have nowhere to go." There it was. The real reason she was here. Not love. Not regret. Just survival. She thought the man she abandoned would still throw her a lifeline after she torched everything we built. I leaned against the doorframe, studying her. "You chose him," I said simply. "You gambled. You lost. He dumped me," she blurted, shame staining her cheeks. "After everything blew up at work, he said he couldn't afford the bad press. That it was too risky to stay with me." I smiled, a cold, razor-thin thing. "Sounds like you two were made for each other," I said. She sagged visibly. Cornered. Alone. Exactly where she put herself. "So what now?" she croaked. "You just leave me out in the cold?" "No," I said softly. "You left yourself there. I'm just refusing to open the door." And with that, I shut the door in her face. No shouting. No threats. No drama. Just a quiet, final end. I watched from the window as she stood there for a long time, tears streaking her makeup, hoping, praying I'd change my mind. I didn't. Eventually, she staggered back to her car and drove away. And I stood there watching the dust settle in the air long after she disappeared down the road. Not with anger. Not even with satisfaction. But with peace. Because the past? It was done clawing at my heels. I wasn't her fool anymore. I wasn't anyone's. I was free. And the future? It was mine.